Hello girls and boys, I am Derek Pritchett. I live part of each year in Colombia, South America. However, I was once a pupil at your school, about 70 years ago. I have written a book which is about my family in England, its ancestors, and some of the things I did as a child. Mrs. Dixon asked me a few days ago if I could read a chapter of this book to you. So here we are. It's chapter 6, which has the title My First School and a Long-Lasting Friendship. On Tuesday, September the 2nd, 1947, having reached the age of 5, my mother took me the few hundred yards along our street to our neighbourhood school, Southcoates Primary, where I would duly start my education. This was, and still is, a walled-in brick building with two entrances on the Southcoates lane side for the primary and junior sections respectively. Both had internal metal railings to prevent children running out of the playground directly into the road that had and continues to have a lot of fast traffic. Another boy, Ralph, arrived at the school by chance at the same gate at the same moment. He was slightly taller than me and was accompanied by his very tall mother, Mrs. Oldfield, who lived a few hundred yards away from the school on Lodge Street in the other direction towards Holderness Road. The two mothers started up a conversation, and we two boys would become close friends to this very day. The primary years from the age of 5 till 8 would pass with little significance apart from my bad bout of pneumonia. In fact, what I can recall of those 3 years is very scanty, except for the fact that we had huge classes of 50 and up to 52 pupils on the school's ground floor. At the time, my friendship with Ralph was growing with fairly frequent visits to his house, which also helped me to get to know better his neighbouring friends and our classmates, Marcia Moxon and Margaret Finney. The junior school part of Southcoates Primary is another story. There, at the age of 8, I was welcomed by Miss Dobson, at the time a young teacher recently graduated, I believe. She was the teacher in charge of my first junior class, who would leave a lasting impression on me as a result of her intense interest in her pupils, despite the huge classes of 50 or 52 pupils. We would also be taught certain subjects. One was geography by Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Atkinson. The school's music teacher, Mr. Metcalf, played the piano for the morning assembly, and Miss Rayner was head of the junior school at the time. When I was 9 or 10, probably in 1951 or 1952, Mr. Metcalf persuaded me to join the school's choir. The main object was to form part of a citywide young people's choir which participated in what would become a local tradition in the 1950s and 1960s. At Hull's City Hall, a beautiful concert hall with one of the best organs in Britain, this became the annual Combined Schools Christmas Carol concert, organised and directed by Mr. Metcalf himself. My participation in this event would go on till 1957, even though I had moved on to be a pupil of Hull Grammar School after that. I thoroughly enjoyed the 2 concert nights we would perform each year in December, and was disappointed to have to leave the choir when I was older. But when the GCE exams were looming up, there was just not enough time to attend the rehearsals. By the time the 1953 Easter holidays had come and gone, the 11 plus exams were over and done with. One's secondary school destiny was sealed during those few short sessions of pen pushing and brain effort. Southcoates Junior School teachers Mr. Stevenson, Mr. Atkinson and Miss Dobson were all confident of a job well done. Despite a kind of scholastic rivalry, apparently largely unperceived by my friend Ralph, the two of us struck up a truly close personal friendship, spending time at each other's homes quite frequently over a period of 5 or 6 years, until he left Hull for Liverpool in 1955. I can even remember, or am I dreaming up this one, that I travelled to Liverpool on one occasion and stayed with Ralph for a few days when we were teenagers. Ralph and I both went to the church's Sunday school, and apart from being in the same primary school class from Monday to Friday, we also saw each other weekly at the Cubs' Tuesday evening meeting, going to an annual camp at Skeffling together on one occasion. We belonged to the Cubs and later the Scouts at St Aidan's Church on Southcoates Avenue, only a couple of 100 yards from Ralph's house and less than half a mile from mine. To this day, I can vividly remember Ralph's house at 123 Lodge Street, just round the corner from our very good friends Marcia Moxon and Margaret Finney, who lived in Telford Street and had both attended the same primary school classes as us. There was a rear access of 10 foot for these houses, which effectively joined up Telford Street with Lodge Street at the back of the houses, and I would take advantage of this to make contact with all of them when I raced round on my bike over the weekends. In Hull at the time, the education system at the secondary level had several grammar schools, maybe 1 or 2 technical schools, and a series of secondary moderns, all of whose pupils were classified according to their results in the 11 plus exams. So far as I know, there were only 2 private schools, Tranby's for girls and Heimer's for boys. In the early 70s, I believe, this state system was reorganised, with all Hull's secondary schools being converted to the comprehensive system. This, in very general terms, meant a levelling down of the educational standards, with absolutely no way of providing for the more capable or above average students, a real tragedy for the progress of the city in the future. Ralph was often pushing me out of the first place in the pupil rankings at the end of each term at Southcoates Junior School. However, the school entered us both for what was then the Heimers College Governor's Scholarship exams. Everyone, especially my parents, said I could make the grade, and I was told that I was the one who would be successful. Most probably they said the same thing to Ralph, but in the end he was the one who got a place there. Whether we actually were given the results of these exams, I don't remember. I woke rather early that Saturday morning, whether in late May or early June of 1953, I quite forget now, ready to catch a bus into Hull's Central Bus Station, and then a second one to Heimer School Lane. My mother went with me, as Dad must have been working, and we finally reached that hallowed entrance, all very posh. What an amazing difference from the school I had known those past 6 years. This was a well-kept building, though not too new, but with an air of sophistication I had never experienced before. Not at all like the old, almost decrepit building on Southcoates Lane, where the heating didn't always work, the toilets were a total shame, and the pupils crammed into large rooms with high ceilings and roofs, and more than 50 per class. However, all this was compensated for by the dedication and personal warmth of the wonderful teachers at Southcoates Primary. Almost 60 years later, would I learn that neither of us, neither Ralph nor myself, had in fact secured a place at Heimers as a result of those exams that we worked so hard to sit for. However, Heimers College was a direct grant school, and as such was obliged to provide a significant number of free places to pupils from local education authorities based on their marks in the normal 11 plus examination. So it was this way that my friend Ralph entered Heimers. That was chapter 6. I hope you liked it, and I look forward to hearing all the comments that you girls and boys probably will be making about my book. Bye. I hope to see you one of these days.